Drug companies shipped 9 million opioid pills to one pharmacy in a town of 400 people in 2 years. Federal agents flagged it. The shipments kept coming. We're also going to cover the coal company that bombed its own workers from private planes, the nuclear bunker hidden under a luxury resort for 30 years, and the state that exists because of a secession from a secession. Here are 35 facts that prove West Virginia is completely unhinged. 1. West Virginia is the only state in the continental U.S. made up entirely of Appalachian Mountain territory. Every single county. No flat part, no coastal plain, no manageable stretch of anything. That geography shapes everything else on this list. 2. West Virginia has 2 panhandles jutting in opposite directions. The northern panhandle is less than 5 miles wide, so narrow that reaching some neighboring states requires driving through a different one first. The shape of this state makes no sense on a map. 3. Multiple distributors shipped 9 million opioid pills to one pharmacy in Kermit, West Virginia, population 400, in 2 years. 22,000 pills per resident. The pharmacy filled 1,000 prescriptions a day. The owner went to prison. The town's total settlement over 15 years. $40,000. 4. The New River is one of the oldest rivers on Earth. Geologists believe it predates the Appalachians themselves. The river was there first. The mountains rose around it. Rather than redirect, it kept cutting through them. It still runs north, which almost no eastern rivers do. 5. At Harper's Ferry, where the Shenandoah meets the Potomac, you can stand in West Virginia and see Maryland and Virginia at the same time. Distance to each state line, yards. 3 states, 1 overlook, all because of a wartime secession that was probably unconstitutional. 6. West Virginia has exported hundreds of billions in coal, gas, and timber over 150 years. Almost none of it stayed. The extraction economy was structured so profits flowed to corporations in New York, Philadelphia, and London. The people who did the work were left with hollowed-out land. 7. West Virginia is the only state created by seceding from another state during wartime, and it was almost certainly unconstitutional. The Constitution requires the original state's consent. Virginia hadn't given it. Lincoln signed off anyway. The Supreme Court has never ruled on whether this state should legally exist. 8. The founders couldn't agree on a name. Proposals included Kanawha, Allegheny, and New Virginia, which would have defeated the purpose. They chose West Virginia even though large portions of the state sit further east than the western parts of Virginia they left. The name is geographically wrong and everyone knew it. 9. Because the state broke off mid-war, West Virginia fought both sides at once. 32,000 joined the Union. 12,000 fought for the Confederacy. Guerrilla raids between neighbors. Some households had brothers in opposing armies and didn't learn who survived until the war ended. 10. Harper's Ferry was the site of John Brown's 1859 raid, the event most historians credit with making the Civil War inevitable. Brown seized the federal armory, was captured by Robert E. Lee, convicted, and hanged. 2 years later, the country was at war. The town changed hands 8 times. 11. The B&O Railroad through West Virginia was so critical that both sides destroyed and rebuilt the same track sections repeatedly, sometimes within days. Confederate forces tore up the same corridor so many times, Union engineers kept a permanent repair crew stationed there. Their only job was undoing what had just been done. 12. McDowell County had over 52% of its working-age adults on federal disability at its peak, the highest rate of any county in the country. Economists found this was often rational. The available jobs were so physically destructive that disability was the likely outcome anyway. 13. At its peak, West Virginia's coal industry produced more than any country on Earth except the United States itself, not any other state, any other nation. Then mechanization hit. The entire economic foundation was removed in roughly 1 generation. There was no plan for what came next. 14. The Battle of Blair Mountain in 1921 is the largest armed labor uprising in U.S. history since the Civil War. 10,000 miners marched against company mercenaries. Sheriff Chaffin chartered biplanes that dropped gas bombs and pipe bombs on them. The National Park Service calls it the first aerial bombardment of American citizens on U.S. soil. 15. Coal company towns paid workers in scrip, a private currency that only worked at company stores at prices the company set. Get fired and you lost your house, your food, and your savings at once. None of it was real outside the company's system. Workers could never save enough to leave. 16. The Hawks Nest Tunnel disaster of the early 1930s killed hundreds when Union Carbide drove a tunnel through a mountain of nearly pure silica with no worker protection. Most were black men from the South. Congressional hearings attributed 476 deaths. Independent estimates reached 764. The company denied knowing about any of it. 17. West Virginia has a law making it illegal to use a ferret for hunting or fishing. Not illegal to own one, just hunting and fishing. At some point in this state's legislative history, someone made that specific activity necessary enough to prohibit. 18. In 2017, Governor Jim Justice switched from Democrat to Republican live on stage at a Trump rally. His own staff found out by watching. He'd been elected as a Democrat less than a year earlier. He's a billionaire who has owed hundreds of millions in unpaid taxes across multiple states. U.S. Senators since 2024, 19. West Virginia voted reliably Democratic for nearly a century. In 2020, Trump carried it by 39 points. The same state that voted for FDR 4 times, and for Carter and for Clinton, now produces Republican margins that would have seemed impossible in 2000. 20. West Virginia's state constitution still contains unenforced language from 1872 barring idiots and lunatics from voting. The state has had multiple chances to formally remove it. It has declined each time. The text is still there. 21. West Virginia has permitless concealed carry and some of the loosest gun laws in the country. It also has the highest overdose death rate in the nation, one of the highest suicide rates, and one of the lowest physician counts per capita of any state. These conditions share a legislature. 22. The Buffalo Creek flood killed 125 people in 1972 when a Pittston coal dam failed, 4 days after a federal inspector called it satisfactory. No blueprints, built on loose coal waste instead of bedrock. Pittston called it an act of God. The state sued for $100 million and settled for $1. 23. The Silver Bridge collapsed during rush hour in December 1967, killing 46 people in under a minute. It directly created the National Bridge Inspection Program, meaning before this happened there was no federal requirement to check bridges. It took 46 deaths 2 weeks before Christmas to establish that standard. 24. West Virginia has had the highest drug overdose death rate in the U.S. for over 15 consecutive years. Cabell County, population under 100,000, was the subject of a lawsuit claiming distributors shipped it 81 million opioid pills over 8 years, about 900 per resident. 25. The Monongah mining disaster of 1907 is the deadliest mine accident in American history. At least 362 workers died, almost certainly more because miners brought children underground to help, none of whom appeared in official records. Children as young as 8 were in those mines. The legal minimum age was 12. 26. West Virginia has recorded more fatal coal mining disasters than any other state in history. In 1907 alone, nearly a quarter of all U.S. mining deaths happened here. That year, 3,242 miners were killed nationwide. More than 700 died in West Virginia. 27. The Greenbrier Resort hid a fully operational nuclear bunker beneath it for 30 years. Built in 1958 to shelter all 535 members of Congress. Its own power plant, decontamination chambers, broadcast studio, 1,100 assigned bunk beds. Exposed by a Washington Post reporter in 1992. Decommissioned within days. 28. The National Radio Quiet Zone covers 13,000 square miles around Greenbank, West Virginia, where most radio transmissions are federally restricted. No cell towers, no Wi-Fi. Microwave ovens are discouraged. The telescope there picks up signals from the edge of the observable universe. 29. A community of self-described electrosensitive individuals has moved to Greenbank specifically because it's radio silent. Scientists have found no physiological basis for the condition, but the federal quiet zone is real, making Greenbank the only place in America where an unverified medical claim and a binding federal law accidentally align. 30. Point Pleasant has a 12-foot chrome Mothman statue in its town center and hosts an annual festival around it. The cryptid was sighted by 107 people over 13 months before the Silver Bridge collapsed. A meaningful portion of the town's economy now depends on a creature nobody has proven exists. 31. A West Virginia University study found McDowell County had a lower life expectancy than parts of Bangladesh, India, and the Philippines. McDowell had once been one of the most productive counties in the United States. It could no longer keep people alive as long as nations the U.S. sends foreign aid to. 32. West Virginia's opioid litigation produced nearly $1 billion in pharmaceutical settlements. Kermit, the town of 400 that received 9 million pills, got $20,000 in its first installment. Total over 15 years, $40,000. Ground Zero for the opioid crisis got less than the cost of a used car. 33. West Virginia leads the nation in diabetes, heart disease, and COPD, and ranks near the top for cancer. It also has among the fewest doctors per capita of any state. Several rural counties have no primary care physician at all. Worst health outcomes, worst health care access. 34. West Virginia passed permitless carry and cut corporate taxes. During the same stretch, it watched its population fall every year for over a decade. One of the few states in genuine net population loss, not slow growth, but people leaving faster than they arrive or are born. 35. West Virginia is the only state that exists because people seceded from a secession. Virginia left the United States. The western counties left Virginia. Constitutionally questionable, never formally adjudicated, accepted because fixing it was more inconvenient than living with it. West Virginia exists because nobody wanted to deal with the paperwork. Born from a secession, sitting on a fortune it was never allowed to keep. A congressional bunker under a golf resort for 30 years. 9 million pills to one pharmacy in a town of 400. West Virginia does not do anything small. If you're from West Virginia or have family there, what's the one thing outsiders consistently get wrong? Not the stereotypes. The thing that actually surprises people. Drop it in the comments. Next up, a state where the history is somehow stranger, the laws more unhinged, the geography even harder to explain. Drop your guess below.